Welcome once again to VegasStrongAndFearless.com. We're coming from Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're telecasting all over the world. I get emails from Jamaica, from Africa, and from everywhere because people are trying to get strong, learning to get strong mentally. Remember, this show deals with a holistic individual, the mind, the body, and the soul. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the mind. The body. The body. It's so important to be strong physically because I know people that they have a lot of money, but they're not healthy. And those people will say, I'll try to give all my money away if I can get healthy. Health is very, very important. You can be perfect. You can be healthy in a perfect fashion. You can be a perfect person without disease. As a man thinketh, so he is. You cannot think about disease. I'm going to quote something. Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. When I read that, that's so true. As I was starting to think about that. Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. And so you might as well think you can. And my other show, by the way, I started another show, and it's a home church. The Living Kingdom Church.com. As you look for it, you may have to keep the word together. To find it easy, you can Google it or go to YouTube. Look at that show, it's going to help you. But that show deals with nothing but the spiritual aspect of you. This show deals with the three, the mind, the body, the spirit. That show deals all about the spirit. It's a church. I've never done this before, starting a home church. It's brand new to me because when I went to school, when I went to seminary, when I went to graduate school, they didn't teach me how to start a church in a home setting. But we're doing it. And I hope you look at it. Google me or Google the show, email me, call me, text me if you like the show. Give me some ideas, give me some thoughts, whatever. It's a whole new show, 24/7. This show is 24/7. This show goes Saturday through Thursday, 24/7, because Friday, which is today, by the way, it's all promotion. We're going to be promoting both shows. Well, this afternoon we want to talk about the body. In the past, I talked about the 5 organs that are very, very important in the body. The brain, the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, and there's 17 plus organs, but those are the 5 that we're dealing with. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about just the brain. Brain and the mind. Completely different functions, different things that they're going to do in your body, but that understanding the mind versus the brain, you can develop and become perfect in your health. No disease. You see, I know a lot of people in my life. And I recall I was a pastor of a church, and this one person was always getting a little sick and always going to a doctor. Never recovered in their sicknesses. You can go to 5 different doctors, same sickness, and they're going to give you 5 different answers, 5 different kinds of medicines, 5 different things to do, many different things to do, all 5 different doctors. Well, a theologian the same way. You can sit down 5 theologians, ministers, and present a biblical question. And they're all going to give you different interpretations, different answers. So really, when it comes down to it, you got to reach your own conclusions after through many studies and so forth. Well, in my studies in the body, I have concluded you can be perfect. You can have a healthy body if you live a certain way, think a certain way, act a certain way, follow certain principles a certain way. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the brain versus the mind. I have my webmaster and I was asking him I asked him a question the other day. Would you consider the hard drive as the brain of the computer? He said, yeah. The brain, the hard drive, has functions in the computer. Now you go get the soft drive and it has their functions too. And that's when you can put together different things you want to show or look up. You need some software. It's the same thing with the brain and the mind. The brain has a function and the mind has a function. When you're born, the brain, it takes care of itself, it takes care of its body, it has functions that are involuntary. For instance, it helps in the pumping of the blood. You never think about the heart pumping, it's automatic. You never think about the water movement, it's automatic. That's a function of the brain. You never think about taking care of certain viruses in your body. The immune system is part of the brain's functions to make sure that's taken care of. And so the brain has its functions. But as you grow older and as you develop, now the mind comes into focus. See, the mind has certain functions as far as making sure you have a perfect body, disease-free. Because generally speaking, when you're born, there's some perfect functions going on, disease-free. When you leave as you get older, then you come across maybe certain disease. Now some of you are going to say, well, what about the person that was born with disease? That's a whole other subject. Now I'm talking about generally speaking, okay? The brain has certain things that it will do without you telling that brain what to do. As I mentioned, the pumping of the blood, the circulation, the heartbeat, the hearing, just on and on and on. Now, but when you go over to the mind now, and that's where the perfect disease-free body occurs. Because if you practice the mind, as I told you in the past, if you want to have the perfect body and the disease-free body, which I think all of us do, there's certain things you have to do mentally. Physically, the body's going to take care of itself. Mentally, there's certain things you have to do to help the body to function in a proper form. As I mentioned in the past, number one, you got to breathe. Learn how to breathe right. Number two, you have to learn how to drink the right fluids. Number three, you got to eat properly. You got to know what you're eating. And number four, you got to learn how to sleep right. If you do cover these four areas, you're going to have the perfect body. You're going to be perfect in health. You know, when someone says they're brain dead in the hospital, but they're keeping them alive with machines. But it's the mind that may not be functioning, but the body is still continuing. So you can be walking around sick, disease, full of disease, maybe you're not using your mind to function correctly. Remember I told you, the first principle of having a healthy body, perfect body. Let me stop that for a second. You see, as I mentioned in the past, I'm a theologian. I believe in the principles of the Almighty Word of God. I believe in the principles of Jesus Christ, His teachings. If we could just follow what He does and what He was doing, we'd be okay. One day, He was walking with His disciples, and the conversation was, how do you do what you're doing? And you know what He told them? He says, the Father, because the Father's everywhere, the Father and I are one. I want you to think about that. The next, if you look at my other show, I want to be talking about the mind of God. Now, I want to explain what I mean by that. But remember, we're talking about right now the holistic individual, the body, the spirit, and the mind. You have a spirit. I have a spirit. When you're born with a spirit. If you had no spirit, you have no life. And so when Jesus says, the Father, the Spirit of God is everywhere. The substance is everywhere. The Almighty is everywhere. The Almighty is everywhere. The Father, He said, and I are one. Look at my show, the church show. We're going to be talking about my daddy. That's my dad in life. He and I were one. Now, he had a different mind. I have a different mind. But you know, his mind, my mind, is part of his mind. It's a whole nother subject. Look at the other show. Because what I'm trying to bring out here is, if you can have that belief that the Almighty, the Spirit of the living, and I are one, you will have the perfect body, and you will be healthy, healthy, healthy. So, if you're breathing right, and you're taking in the right clean air. Well, I was at a store the other day, and everybody has, I call them the Phantom of the Opera mask on. They all got, in fact, I was going to come on my show with a mask over my, just kidding, joking. But I didn't want to do that. See, I've concluded in my own personal studies, all this corona stuff, it's a virus yet, but it's nothing new. It's been around for generations. They discovered this virus in 1967. I'm telling you, man, someone's making billions of dollars off this movement, off this, I call it fake news, but that's a whole nother subject. But breathing is important. But then I was going to tell you, I was at the store the other day, and I seen this guy with a mask on. He's there sitting, waiting for somebody. He pulls his mask off, gets a pack of cigarettes, begins to smoke. And I'm thinking, now wait a minute. Wait a minute. He's taking all this nicotine in, all this dirty air, all this garbage that's going to affect his lungs. You think he's breathing right? No. And then I went to the park one day, and this guy's walking. A beautiful day now, a beautiful day, and fresh air. And I'm taking in the oxygen. I'm breathing. There's certain ways how to breathe. You know, take some good air in and sit upright and exhale. So I'm doing this. And this guy comes by with a mask. And I'm saying, man, he's robbing himself of this beautiful air that he could be breathing right now. There's no crowds. He's by himself. And so breathing is important. If you breathe right, you know, the ventilation. I'm trying to learn to sleep at night with the windows open and the screen or the doors open. Not downstairs, I lock it up, but sliding doors, good ventilation. I recall I went to do a wedding at a particular casino, and the ladies that were back there working, they were in a room, and there was about 6 of them, no ventilation, no windows. But we're always sick. Breathe. Please learn how to breathe right. Do some studies on how to breathe right. So my webmaster telling me we don't have much time here. Breathing. Drinking a lot of water, drinking a lot of cola. I was telling somebody the other day, I had a friend that every time you saw this person, she had a Coca-Cola can in her hand, always drinking Coca-Cola. And man, it affected her. It affected her. What are you drinking? Are you drinking poison? I call it alcohol poison. Are you drinking stuff that you have no business drinking? Be aware of what you're drinking. I'm not saying you got to cut everything out. Everything. Lose people. But in a modern, be smart. Eating right. You can eat anything you want, you know. Someone said, well, you got to be careful what you eat. You got to be aware of these diets. No. I don't believe in diets, because what's right for me right now might be wrong for the people that live in Alaska, because it's a different zone. You know, what might be bad for me as far as certain food that may affect me wrong, may be good for people in Europe. It's all about zones where you live. You can eat anything you want in moderate, of course, fashion. Hunger. I conclude the perfect health is only when you're hungry. Don't eat, well, out of, I think I'll have some, I need to eat breakfast. I need to eat lunch. I need to eat dinner. No, you don't. You only eat when you're hungry. If you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. And probably the last thing with this I'll conclude, sleep. You gotta learn how to sleep. Some people have a hard time sleeping. I never had a hard time sleeping. I used to have a hard time getting up. But sleeping has not been a problem. Maybe you need to go to sleep with some meditation music, some classical music, some prayer, there's a lot of ways to learn how to sleep. Do your study. So, with this we're going to conclude. The body, the brain, or the mind. They're both important. You cannot say the brain is not as important as the mind is more. No, they're both important. You need to be aware of your brain, taking care of the brain, what you're seeing, what you're reading, what you're thinking, the mind. They're both important. I want you to be strong and fearless. I want you to be mentally healthy, physically healthy. They go hand in hand. God bless you. I want to be hearing from you. Email me, call me, and just let me know how you're getting along. Look at my other show. It's on 24/7. I think you're going to enjoy it. God bless you. You have a good day.